In the last one, I messed around with these racks. I think having a bunch of racks for yourself with presets is really awesome, especially these noisemakers. For me, it's great as a jumping off point when I don't have ideas. Working with presets can be really useful. Of course, change them up, manipulate them, use them as a springboard to create something even better. So here's one that I messed with sort of in the interim between the last video and this one. And this one uses our trusty pattern random sequence generator. And we've got our note generator here, which I love because you can just drag these racks in and they just start making sound for you. No frills. So let's go ahead and try to build one of these. And I like to use operator a lot, as you've noticed, but you could use any of your favorite soft synths. Some of mine are, of course, besides Cardinal and Reactor. I really love the UHE ones. The TAL ones sound pretty good. Mutools, Mux Modular is really awesome. As you can tell, I love the ones that let you build your own stuff inside of them. Big fan of Legos growing up, so big fan of synths and samplers that you can customize and tweak. Okay, so click on this icon here. This is our project. Let's pull in some of the note generator. There we go. Now we're in tune. And let's use the sequence generator here. Haven't used this one in a while. I also want to use the new slip and slide one. And I will map to these different timbres here. And let's set these to different wave types. So something like slipnslider also would be really useful for the wave table. I'm not a huge fan of the wave table in Ableton myself. Partly just I haven't really spent enough time with it. I really do think you got to spend like 100 hours with something, especially like Cardinal, to really learn how to make it sing for you. All right, let's turn this auto on. You can see it's going to cycle through these. And let's give ourselves some attack there. We could group this and let's just map to the attack on each one of these. Map to that. Map to that. Let's give ourselves a lot of attack. And I want to do the same for the release. And if we wanted, we could rename this. Okay, so let's try something a little odd with this slip and slide. I don't know if this will be any good in the long run. Let's take this down to 2. I mean, it's basically like putting an LFO on these. I think, let's see, let's take this down to 4, so we've only got 4 of those there. That makes sense. Let's also map to the sustain here. And let's take the probability down so not every single note is coming through. And I want to bring in some of our effects that we added here. And I like this warp and flubber, adds a bit of like a warble effect. And let's bring in one of these and build something using our slider 8. That's the MIDI one. I want to use the audio just to keep them connected. What we could also do is we could create a new chain in here. And we could just drag this to the top. Whoa. Makes it a little easier if we just put this in here. And we can mute that because we don't want the dry coming through on that one. Let's go ahead and turn on auto. I'm going to go ahead and map. Let's just do 4 of them today. So change this down to 4. And here we can add anything. But I'm going to bring in the grain delay just for speed's sake. Let's just do different pitches here. And let's take this down to -7. I'm going to kind of go with that. Usually sounds melodic combination of 7s and 5s here. We could do -12. And let's get one more going here. And we'll do this +12. We need to get the dry wets on these all the way up. Again, like I showed last time, we have this volume, it's just an empty rack. I've got this chain here mapped to that. This one in turn mapped to the top level. Now we've got that feedback going on the grain delay. Let's go ahead and, sometimes that's interesting. I could add an audio effect. I really wish you could add MIDI effects inside of these audio racks. That would be amazing. I think in Bitwig you can actually do that kind of thing. Because I would love to get the, well, we can use the audio one, but it's nice having the MIDI note fire off. I could make an audio version of this that has a note firing off sequence inside of it. This one only, I mean, I guess, well, we're not pushing play today, I've decided. So we're not going to use these. These ones here run off of the transport, are synced to the push play. And this, honestly, this threshold thing works, for me, it works a lot better when you have really percussive sounds coming through. When it's a slow drone kind of thing, it can be a little dodgy in terms of when it's fired off. One thing I want to do here is pull the probability way down. It's, you know, if you're making more rhythmic stuff, yeah, that can be nice, but I want to get something a little bit sparser going. One of my sort of lazy person go-to techniques, as you've seen before, is adding a tremolo. 2 in a row, you change the rates a little bit, and they kind of create a little bit of a variance. I love to work with, you know, as you notice, I'm using a lot of mapping in most of my Max for Live devices. I haven't really gone too far into, well, besides the Muse Concrete tool, into working with effects in Max for Live. I think a lot of times the synths and some of the audio effects inside of Max for Live have a bit too much of a grainy, for me it's not the most, it's not as good sounding as a lot of the plugins that I have, so I tend to stick with those and just map to those. I love a lot of the MIDI manipulation stuff that you can do with Max. Just the sound quality, I guess, of the MSP part is not my favorite. I've heard some really great sounding stuff, of course. I think a lot of that was custom coded, but I might at some point make a special tremolo type of effect like this. But for now, just use the built-in Ableton stuff. They're very CPU lean. A lot of them sound pretty decent. You know, the grain delay is a bit crunchy, a bit digital sounding. It's got that Ableton porous type of sound. But what we could do is we could put like a little bit of an LFO on this. So let's just pull in, if I can remember where it's at. Yes, there we go. And this is an audio effect, so I kind of like to keep LFOs close at hand. we could take this randomizer here. We've got a lot of empty mapping slots. We could just map that way, which we need to pull up the min because we don't want the probability to ever go to 0. If we do, it will stop sending notes in and stop firing off randomness. So that's, I guess, something you got to consider when you're mapping backwards down the chain there. Okay, back to this. Now, if you build a rack that you really love, which for me takes 20 to 30 minutes sometimes of tinkering, then I suggest dragging it somewhere. Maybe you have a folder just full of your own racks inside of the user library folder of yours. Inside of project folders, you can also just drag it, drop it, hit enter. If you make changes to it, you can just drag it in the same place, hit enter, and then OK to overwrite. And that's a great way, I think, easy way of making quick presets. You can just drag it into a new track. Do further manipulating. Like, for example, we could have, where is the instrument? Buried deep. So one of my biggest issues that I have is trying to remember when I go back later, like how to remember where everything's at, how everything's linked up. It is, I guess, like writing some code. You just have to take some time to try and refamiliarize yourself with your own crazy ideas. Same when I open up these Macs for Live patches weeks later. Some of them, it's just, I don't even remember what was happening on before. So let's bust out the slip and slide, and I'm going to map the on and off of these. Instead, let's use the on-off here. So this will limit the flow of MIDI notes. Right now, we basically have a chord. One note comes through and it hits all these pitch shifters, sends out a chord essentially. So here I'm going to map. So I just want one note to come through, and I'm going to map all these here and turn the auto on. Let's set this to 5. So you will only see the notes come through on the ones that are actually set to on. And one other thing is under this mapping section here, you can see it's 64 to 127. 0 to 1 is sort of like better for on and off devices in this case. And let's make a final one. This one can be a chord. You can really put anything you want in there. Arpeggiators. Let's do 7, 5, 24 for just whatever reasons. And let's map this to here. And 0 and 1. And map this to this. And let's just change this up just to make it sort of off so they're not all the same. And if we like this variation, we call this 2. And I am hearing in my head I'd like to add more effects after, but I think for the sake of brevity on this video, I'm going to just leave this as it is. All right, in the racks folder, noise generators, just drag it, drop it. You got yourself a preset sound generator for future use. All right, so I hope this has been informative, and until next time.